Good evening, everybody. If you're wondering what that piece of music was, and you're thinking, that's odd, that is most unlike Jonny Lipsham, well, maybe a little bit. Oh, somebody is ringing me. Hang on, I forgot to turn my phone on silent. I always forget to do that when I'm either starting a video or starting a stream. So I better do that, because we don't want my phone going all night, do we? Alright, so that's that out of the way. Yes, it is. It's well, it's 6 p.m. In the Central Time area. Which makes it 11 p.m. for me currently, because you guys are on daylight saving time, and we will be starting our daylight saving time in the next week or two, I think. So it's getting close to that time of the year for us too. Finally, spring has sprung, eh? So, if you're wondering what that piece of music was, and I've just realized my speakers are switched on, so you could probably hear bleed back into the speakers. There we go. Yes, I'm a little late getting here. Sorry about that. So I was rushed getting everything set up just to hit start stream so that I could start on time. So yes, if you're wondering what the music was, if you have been on Google at all in the last day or two, you know how they have their Google Doodle thing on their start page? Well, just recently it was the anniversary of Johann Sebastian Bach's birth, and so their doodle for that particular event was you could go in to the doodle pad and you could harmonize a melody. So you could input a melody into the stave that's there, and then when you're happy with your little piece of melody, then it would harmonize in the style of Bach chorale harmony. So it would follow Bach's chorale rules that he set down in all of those hundreds of preludes and fugues and chorales that he wrote. So anyway, I came up with my little melody, and basically it's just a pentatonic scale that I wrote in ascending and descending fashion, and that's the harmony that Google, in the style of Bach, came up with, and it downloads as a MIDI file, which is very cool because it means you can just drag it in straight into Studio One, and it opens up 4 instances of presence in this case, which means I can either have it as 4 notes on the piano, which is what I have at the moment, or I could have it as choir voices, which could be pretty cool. I've not set it up to do that yet, but we could certainly do that if you'd be interested. Ken says he likes the opening music. Cool. So who have we got here? We've got loads of people here already. My good friend Jonny Gibe, who's one of my best friends on the planet, very, very kindly created an email blast, which he sent out to his email list, so I appreciate him doing that. He will be along a little later on in the chat. I'm not going to be able to get him into the show because there is an issue with the way Skype interacts with OBS, the new version of OBS, so which creates a bit of a problem for us at the moment. So we are working on that, and I've reached out to both the guys at OBS and Skype. I'm a Skype beta tester. So I've contacted Skype, and we are working on that issue because I think it'd be very cool to be able to continue being able to interact with Jonny in my show in the same way that I interact with him in his shows. So that would be very, very cool to be able to get that going. So we've got Just Bob. He was first in the door. Awesome. And Kirk McWright is here. Tony Stringnert. I need to get your name right, don't I? Ken Moss is here. And Bobby Booth. No show is complete without Bobby. So we'll scroll down a wee bit. And Jonny is here. He's just arrived. Awesome. He says howdy. She Studio, that's my good friend Sheila. She says, I played with the Google Bach thing. It's really cool. And she downloaded the MIDI as well. Well, that's awesome. I think actually at the start of the show here, I think what I will do is I will I will maybe transform this into a presence choir, and we can see what this sounds like as a choir as opposed to just a piano. I think that might be quite cool. And DDD Entertainment is here. Awesome. And she says, hey guys. And Mike says, I'm having nothing but issues with OBS right now. Are you on the very latest and greatest of OBS, which is version 23.0.2, I believe it is? I was testing version 23.0 before it launched. They made a beta version of it, which they sent out to a few people, and I managed to get myself in the line for that. So I was testing that. DTN Studios says, I guess Johnny doesn't like me. Sorry, buddy. No, I just missed your name entirely. And Dre Bach is here. Johnny says, I'm on the release before. Okay, yes. That might be why we have issues, Johnny, with Skype and OBS. But I'm going to get that looked into. As you can hear, I still have my cold. My voice is still approximately an octave below where it should be, which is entertaining. But anyway, why don't we go into Studio One and we can have a look at this Bach thing for a moment, just if you're interested. If you're not, then it's okay. And we can transform this into a choir, and I've just pressed entirely the wrong button. I wanted to press there. So I've got this on piano, but we can change all of these to choir. That might be quite cool. Let's see, where is the choir? Bevox choir. Let's go for choir full. And it's probably a quicker way to set all of these as choir. But if there is, I haven't done. Oh, it has done it. It has done it all. Okay, I must have had them all highlighted. Awesome. All right, let's have a listen to this as choir. See what this is like. There we go. Reminds me of my university days when I had to sing in a Bach chorale choir for university, which was great fun. I love singing Bach because he writes so well for tenors. Because he writes nice and high for tenors, and most of the tenors that were in my choir were kind of, well, they were more like baritones than tenors. They weren't strictly high tenors like me, so they were struggling with all the high notes, and there was me kind of like sailing up to them, but not at the moment whilst I have my cold. I can't even get anywhere near close to those, unfortunately. So there we go. So there we go. You have it as a choir, and you could probably have it as a horn section as well if you really wanted to. And we could have Bach chorale style horn section. That could be quite fun. But there you go. I hope you found that entertaining and amusing, and we'll go back to the lounge right now. BTN says, is there any way to soften the attack to make them sound a little more humanized? Yes, there is. I have not touched any of the velocities. I basically just brought in the MIDI file straight into Studio One. So this is as is from Google. But of course, you can easily adjust the velocities without any trouble. And certainly some of the note lengths are a little bit on the short side. It's not exactly legato. So I would need to go in and adjust some of the note lengths and make it a little bit more smooth and legato. But as I say, I've not really touched this. I just brought it into Studio One because I thought it would be entertaining. So I hope it was for you guys. So I thought tonight we would talk a little bit about amp simulators and a couple of other things that have been on my mind recently. So why don't we do that? So there are plenty of amp sim options around. There's the California Sun, which I believe is a free amp sim. Jonny was singing its praises for a wee while yeah, a few shows ago, quite a many few shows ago, I think. So Johnny, if you still have the link to that, drop that in the chat. If you still do, that would be pretty cool. That is definitely a really good option. I've been quite impressed by it. I don't have it myself, but certainly seeing people's use of it, I've been really quite impressed with it. So that is definitely a guitar amp worth getting. Let me just adjust my chair because my back is getting a little bit sore. And I should probably move my mic a little bit closer to me so I'm not having to lean. There we go. That's a bit better. So that is definitely an option. There are also other options as well. Like if you have had Studio One since version 2, which I have, when I first got Studio One version 2, it came bundled with the Native Instruments Contact 5 player and associated bits and pieces. But I also, because I'm an ex-Cubase guy, Cubase for a long time had a relationship with Native Instruments, not Native Infants. That would be weird. They certainly had a bit of a thing going on there, Native Instruments and Steinberg. And so as a result of that, there was some integration built into Cubase for Native Instruments Contact. And so I had I don't anymore, but I had the full Native Instruments Contact 5 bundle. Now the only thing I do have is kind of what comes free, and you get basically a stripped down version of it. You get some instruments, you get some drum sets, and you get a couple of synths, I think. There's Reactor and Tractor, I think, players. But you also get the Guitar Rig 5. Now, I believe Native Instruments have just recently released Contact 6, which I have heard is an incredible piece of software engineering. It's getting a lot of applause from a lot of people. Johnny says he'll try to find that link to the California Sun, which would be pretty cool. Just Bob says, if you said, I eat liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti, you'd sound like Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, apparently Anthony Hopkins had to drop his voice down for that role. He normally has a reasonably middle kind of speaking voice, and for the role of Hannibal Lecter, he had to drop it down quite considerably to make the character sound really quite sinister. But if you watch some of the other films in the series, you find yourself strangely warming to this character, because you realize that you know, he's kind of, yes, he's totally and utterly depraved, but he's also maybe just a little bit of a phenomenally intelligent, cerebral and intellectual person who is just considerably lost in a dark world that he has no idea how to get out of. But because of that, he has justified the darkness and justified the depravity that he involves himself in. It's very interesting. I've read all the books. They are phenomenal. If you've seen the movies, get the books. They are phenomenal. The books are incredible. And you certainly learn more about the Hannibal Lecter character than you do from the films, although Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of the character is outstanding. It's some of the best acting I've ever seen him do, aside from when he played C.S. Lewis in The Remains of the Day, which was perhaps one of his finest performances. But anyway, that's another subject entirely. So Native Instruments and Guitar Rig. Now, I've been using Guitar Rig a little bit on my Paper Deity mix for my Paper Deity mixing series. Now, here's the interesting thing. When I originally mixed this, I didn't use it. I didn't use the Guitar Rig 5. I think I used Ampire, which comes with Studio One. And Ampire is fantastic. It's really, really good. And it certainly competes very, very well with Guitar Rig. But Guitar Rig does give you a few more options that maybe Ampire does not. One of the accusations that floats around about Ampire is that it can sound a little bit metallic and a little bit plasticky sounding. I don't necessarily subscribe to that point of view, but I can see perhaps why some people say it. But I thought that we would maybe talk a little bit about that, and maybe you could pop into the chat here, folks, your experiences with either Ampire or Native Instruments, Guitar Rig 5, and maybe some of the others. And if there are any other amp sims that I have not mentioned or I don't know about, then certainly do put them into the chat and recommend them if you think they're really good, especially if they're free. And if they're free and really good, that's even better. Because quite often you get free plugins that are just, you're just like, why did I download this? It's awful. It's just rubbish. Not worth having. So, yeah, so if you know of any other amp simulators that you think, hey, this is really worth putting on people's radar because it's free and it's actually really, really good, then put it in the chat. I'd appreciate that, and we can all talk about that. Bobby says Guitar Rig 5 is only a demo for 30 minutes at a time. Well, you know what? I've never actually found it cutting out on me at all, which is interesting. But maybe that's because of the version that I have. Maybe could be something like that, I guess. I don't actually know. But yeah, Guitar Rig 5 for me, I'm not finding it cutting out on me. I find it working pretty like I expect it to. Here it is, with the Tremolo Twang preset, which gives you a nice little amp head with a tremolo built in, which is really, really cool. And I think actually I in the mixing series videos that I've been doing, when we were going through the guitars, I kind of took a peek a little bit at what I've been doing with these. Excuse me. And it is actually very, very cool. You've got this dry air thing going on, which the air thing I think opens up some of the top end of the reverb, and then you've got these different microphone options. Now I don't think in this free version you can actually adjust what these or find out what these microphones are, as far as I know. As far as I know, they're just kind of locked and set as A or B, and we don't really know what they are. I imagine that in the full version of Guitar Rig 5 you can actually play with these quite a bit. But you do get a whole lot of presets just scrolling through, even some bass amp sets here. There's an Ottawa. There's plenty of stuff to get your head around. There's the jazz reverb, which is actually very, very nice. I was tinkering around with that just the other day. Pick bass, you've got a phaser bass, phased rhythm guitar. And then you've got some other ones that are kind of where you might want to reamp a snare or something like that, which why would I ever want to do that? You never know. And some lead guitar ones, slap bass. There's all sorts. There's absolutely loads of presets, more than you'll ever need to get your hands on, as far as I'm concerned. And so I really like the sound that you get out of Guitar Rig 5. Ampire is great, says Mike. Lipsham, never heard of them. Are pretty good. Ignite amps are good. The S gear that comes with Slate bundle is good. Yes, I when I had the Slate bundle, I used the S gear a bit. My initial problem with the S gear was actually getting it to operate in the DAW and not in standalone mode. But once I got that working, it was very, very good. But you need to work to find sounds. Yes, that's the thing with Guitar Rig. You have to work quite hard to get the kind of sounds that you want. You have to play around with presets. You have to play around with the adjustments in the amp heads and the cabinets and that kind of stuff to try and get what you want. So maybe not quite so uber intuitive. Bob Studios is here and he says, used Amplitude years ago. IK kind of dissed me, so I kind of dumped them. Yeah, I've heard good things about Amplitude. Mike says Ignite amps are all free, and you have a video on them on your channel. Well, that's very cool. So, folks, go to the Peace Valley Audio YouTube channel if you're interested in the Ignite amps, and maybe go and take a look at those. And on Mike's recommendation, maybe go pick them up. I mean, you know, what's the harm? It's free. If they're good and free, may as well have it. That's what I think. Oh, Bobby says you must have the full version because the presets have demo at the end. Oh, really? Okay. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe I do have the full version. You know what? It was so long ago, I don't really know. And it's something that, as I say, came over with Cubase. So I had always assumed that what I had in Studio One was kind of what at the time was bundled with Studio One, but maybe I've ended up with the full version somehow, and I've just forgotten. Entirely possible. So Lepu, I don't know what it is. Are free as well. Cool. Let's see. Yeah, a couple of you are talking about IK Multimedia and not really liking them so much anymore. Okay. Well, to be honest, I've never used IK Multimedia stuff, so I would not really know, I'm afraid. So, yeah, so I didn't really want to dwell too much on Guitar Rig 5. I'm really quite interested to see what other options you guys are coming up with. And Mike has come up with a few here, which is very cool. So I'm definitely going to go and take a look at the Ignite amps and see what they're like. IK was good in the day. Yeah, as I say, I can't really answer to that because I just don't know. Waves has the GTR package and the PRS. Oh yes, the PRS models, of course. Thank you, Ken. Yes, I don't know whether the PRS amps in Waves, I don't know whether they are free or whether they are paid for. But I'm definitely going to go and check those out as well because I have to admit I'm a little bit partial to PRS guitars because they are very, very versatile. You can use them really, you can make a fantastic sound in a jazz context, and you can make just as a fantastic sound in a screaming rock setting as well. So I think they're very, very versatile guitars. Really worth having. That said, talking about guitars, if I could afford one, I would like to get my hands on one of the new Fender American Precision Precision Performance Series, I think they're called. I'd like to get the Telecaster that's in that line, because I saw this young guitar player playing with a band here in Edinburgh at our local jazz club called the Jazz Bar, and he must have been about 14. He was French. He was about 14, and they played a tune called Cherokee, made famous in the 1940s by Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker would play at about 310 beats a minute. This kid played it at 365 beats a minute. I know because I checked it against the metronome app on my phone. 365 beats per minute. I have never seen a kid's fingers flying up and down the fretboard so fast. And yet he was playing really gorgeous melodic lines in his improvisation. 14 years old, fantastic guitar player, and he was playing one of those particular Telecasters, and I was just like, oh, I would really like to get one of those. So there you go. Let's pop up the chat a little bit. Let's just press that. Mike says Empire is awesome too. I have the metal add-on pack, and you can load impulse responses for cabinets. Oh, I didn't know that. Now, yes, I also have the metal add-on pack as well, and you've got that in your video as well. Awesome, fantastic. I will go check those out. The PRS are not free. Yes, I thought that might be the case. Yes, I forgot to go to the lounge because I was too busy talking about Guitar Rig. Sorry about that. Thank you, BTN Studios. Let's see. Wave ones, the PRS are not free. You can demo for 14 days like all waves. Yes, cool. Bob Studio says Cherokee drum tune. I guess it kind of is. If you are able to keep that jazz ride pattern going at 365 beats a minute for 15 minutes, then yeah, it's a drum tune. I think the fastest I've ever played it was at university, and we played it at 320, and that was, you know, and that was at our jam sessions and at the jazz. We had a jazz night at our students' union bar, and we would play a lot of the bebop classics like Cherokee and a few others, and we would just play them all at stupid, absurd tempos, stupidly fast tempos. And you know, everybody takes their solos, so you know, I'm sat there going ting 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 on the ride cymbal for 15 minutes, 20 minutes sometimes for each tune. So yeah, you have to have some good stamina to play that, and you really do have to learn how to play relaxed. I mean, that's one of the big things that changed about my drumming at university, was learning how to play relaxed so that I could play fast and I could sustain playing fast without, you know, kind of like having, you know, RSI or something in my wrist, you know, just learning just to let the sticks kind of do the work was kind of, I learned that in those ridiculous high tempo jam sessions. So yeah, Cherokee is a great tune for that. It's great for improvisation as well. Dewey still says, are Fenders actually made in the US? Well, this particular series, the American Precision series, is US made. I don't know about any other previous Fender guitars, whether they're made in the United States or not, I don't know. I do know that Fenders are not made in Scotland, unfortunately. Wish they were. Sadly not. Okay, oh, didn't want to do that. Let's see. PRS supermodels at $80. Nice. Okay, I could probably afford those. Chris from Deer Creek Audio is here. He says, hello, everybody. He says, get a Squire Classic Vibe Telly and save your pennies. I've got an American and Mech Strats, and they are too similar. Hard to justify another $1,000, although there is a slight difference. Yeah, maybe. That said, I mean, this bass over here is a vintage 1962 Fender Jazz bass, from which I removed the frets to make it fretless. It is gorgeous. In the beautiful sunburst finish. I love it. But my other bass is a Squire Jazz bass, and it's, you know, comfortably half the price of this beautiful thing over here. At least. I mean, it cost me £210, I think, and that was including the case and a set of strings and what else did they throw in? Oh, and a stand as well. As if I need any more stands for my basses. But yeah, so that's my fretted bass, and it's gorgeous. It's fantastic. Sometimes it gives this one over here a run for its money in terms of tone and intonation. Really, really well built. Now, the thing with Squires is that they can be hit or miss. You can get one Squire and it sounds incredible, and it sounds like it's worth $1 million. And then you can pick up another Squire. It looks identical. It maybe even has the same set of strings on it. And you play it, and it sounds cheap. And it doesn't really have a whole lot of sustain. I'm still talking about basses here rather than guitars. And doesn't have like a whole lot of sustain. And you have to kind of really work hard to get tone from the strings. Whereas I prefer to, you know, I prefer the body of the instrument and the strings to do the work for me, so that my fingers are, you know, again, it's all about, you know, I have a very much a relaxed way of playing bass as much as drums. And so I need an instrument that's going to work with me. So some Squires, they really do that. I got lucky with my fretted bass, which is not here at the moment. My fretted bass is in another studio, because this week I'm kind of toing and froing from different studios. For a variety of reasons. I normally do, if I'm doing session work, I normally am here. I'm normally in this room to do my bass playing. But occasionally I get to go and do some live tracking with a band, and that's what I'm doing this week for an artist, and that's fun. So I'm playing fretted over there, and we're kind of like doing R&B stuff, which is really nice. I get to chill. I get to relax playing R&B stuff, so I get to do a lot of slapping, which is great. I'm a little out of practice on my slapping, though. Let's see. Adnan Alisic says, I owned a beautiful vintage American jazz bass from 1977. Oh, the mid-70s jazz basses were lovely instruments. Really, really gorgeous instruments. Personally, I prefer the jazz basses from the early 60s through to the early 70s, just because they have a bit more bark and a bit more bite to them. Whereas kind of like the kind of mid to late 70s ones, you know, they kind of lost a little bit of that and maybe rounded out a little bit more. I don't know whether they changed their factory or something, but so there we go. And we got into talking about guitars instead of guitar amps. Do you run vinyl clad on the fretless? No, I don't. There you go. Simple answer, sorry. I'm just a simple guy, really. Oh, line 6. There's another amp modeling company. They also make Variax basses and Variax guitars. I was quite tempted by a Variax bass. I have to admit, the early days when they were just kind of pioneering the whole thing of modeling basses. I tried a couple out, and didn't quite think the fretless sounded particularly authentic, and didn't really like the upright sound that they had on it either. But, you know, the kind of the normal fretted sound, of which there are 2 or 3. I think they have a Fender, and they have a Hofner. Oh, I think Music Man, I think, something like that. The 3 fretted kind of basses that are on the wee dial. And then there's the Fender fretless, and then there was an upright bass that they apparently modeled off of a 1940s upright, which I was really interested in because my upright bass was a 1940s upright bass. But didn't like it. I don't know whether they are better now, but I mean, we're talking like 15 years or so ago. So I'd imagine they would be improved by now. I would have thought. Bobby says, Plug-in Alliance has some amp sims for $149 each. Yeah, that's a little on the pricey side. But yeah, Line 6, they make some really nice amp modeling little boxes. Avid 11 rack. Oh, I hear lots of good things about the Avid 11 rack. If you can afford it, if you've got the money for it, and guitar playing is certainly the dominant thing that you do, I would say maybe invest in one. If you want to be able to have a whole bunch of different amp tones and mic combinations at your fingertips without having to have all of the gear and wiring everything up and miking everything up and putting the mics in the right places, etc., in your room, and you do a lot of guitar playing, then I think maybe the 11 rack is a great option if you can afford that. I don't play nearly enough guitar for 2 reasons. Number 1, I can only play really weird jazz chords, and I'm not just talking regular jazz chords, weird jazz chords. And number 2, I'm not very good. When I do my little funky strumming thing, quite often the plectrum just goes and I never see it again. So I'm not a very good guitar player. So an 11 rack would be lost on me, particularly, I think. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, we got quite a few, quite a lot of chat going on here. Deer Creek says that the 11 racks are getting a bit long in the tooth, and you can pick them up pretty inexpensively. Nice units, but approaching vintage. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, kind of fairly elderly technology, and a fairly elderly concept by modern standards. So yeah, kind of, yeah, maybe getting a little bit vintage, but maybe there's nothing wrong with vintage in terms of digital technology. You know, much in the same way, maybe we crave vintage analog gear. Maybe in a few years' time, we'll start craving, you know, earlier digital gear because it has that vintage early digital era sound. Maybe, I don't know. So maybe you're right. Maybe now is the time, if you are a guitar player, to get an 11 rack, because maybe as they become more antique, so to speak, and vintage, maybe they'll get more pricey again because they'll become collector's items. Who knows? Who knows how that all works? I don't. I'm no expert in that kind of thing. Okay, so we've chatted quite a bit about guitars, basses, guitar amps, and 11 rack, and all of the really, really cool options that we've got there, which is very cool. Mike has a good bunch of links, he says, on the videos to do with the PRS amps and the Ignite amps. He's got links in the descriptions of those videos. So if you are interested in those, go to Mike's channel, the Peace Valley Audio channel, and look up those videos. Go to the description box and hit up those links and go get those amps if you're interested. I think I will go and get the Ignite amps and see what they're like. That could be quite entertaining. And quite cool to do, because, you know, mixing guitars, most oftentimes I get the end result. I get the track printed with the amp tone. Basically, you know, it's mic'd and maybe DI'd, and I'll get the choice of DI and mic, and I'll maybe blend the two together, and I'll maybe run the DI through some kind of amp sim, maybe. But for the most part, I don't really use amp sims because they come to me already, you know, mic'd up through the amps. So I'm getting the amp tone direct through the mics. So I don't tend to use them. But on Paper Deity, I didn't use amp sims. I used the Ampire, and that was it. And then I printed them. But in this case, I went back and grabbed the original tracks from the pool of the original mix so that I could get them without without it all printed on and everything. So yeah. So I was able to try out a different guitar amp sim. So if you've been watching my mixing series, you'll get to check out how I've used the guitar rig a little bit more in detail. And I've not used it on the bass. I'm thinking about trying either the Ampire on the bass or maybe even the guitar rig on the bass. I'm not really sure, or maybe just leaving it as is, because it's direct into the interface, and I might just leave it as is, which is, I think, how it went down on the record originally. It was just, I just left it as is. I didn't run it through an amp sim or anything like that. I just EQ'd it and compressed it a little bit and left it. I think maybe because I intended to go back and, you know, do something with an amp sim, and then I think I forgot. So it went, that's how it went. So there we go. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about was again, something else that somebody reminded me of. Somebody reminded me, hey, you did that video series on the video series. You did that product review of the Klanghelm MJUC compressor. I said, yeah, I did. Long time ago, but yeah, I did. So I thought maybe we could not talk about the MJUC, because I have talked about that a lot. And it is a fantastic little compressor, for absolute sure. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to show you. And it's made by a company called Klanghelm, run by a fantastic guy called Tony. And he basically builds plugins because they're the kind of things he wants to use in his mixes. So he creates the plugins. It's not to say there's not a wealth of other plugins, but, you know, he likes to build compressors and EQs and all sorts of other stuff and saturation stuff just because, hey, they're the kind of thing that he likes to use. But then he puts them on his website to sell them. And he sells them super cheap. which I think is ludicrous, but it's, you know, that's kind of like the business model and the decision that he has come to. You guys are still talking about guitar amps and stuff, which is cool. Yeah, you can keep talking about that. That's cool. So, the MJUC is a fantastic compressor. I'm going to bring in a couple of different instances of it here, just because I can. I'm going to put that one there. This is the paid for one. There is a free one, which I'm going to bring in as well. So I'm going to park the free one underneath. This is the free one. If you're kind of a little bit on the new side, hang on, let me just get some fluid from my throat. Hang on. I'll be with you in a sec. There we go. Yeah, so if you're kind of new to compression, this is pretty cool. This is the MJUC Junior. And basically it has fast, slow, or auto for what they call the time constants. This is your attack and release. And then you have a compression knob and a makeup gain knob. And it really is that simple. So, you know, if you're wanting to begin to explore different tones other than the native compressor in Studio One, which is a very, very cool compressor, by the way. It's one of the best stock compressors I've ever come across in any DAW, any DAW. And that would include the one that's in Pro Tools and the one that's in Cubase and the one that's in Logic. I think this guy, I think the compressor in Studio One beats them all, hands down, personally. I think it's a very versatile little compressor. You know, you can use it in a variety of settings. And it's very, very transparent. This guy over here will get you into exploring different compression tones and different compression styles. Because this is what they call a variable mu compressor. And it's just dead simple to use. When you want to compress, you turn up this knob, and then you use the makeup gain to balance it out, and you can either have it fast, slow, or if you just want to just concentrate on operating just two knobs, you can put it in auto, and it will sort out the attack and release on your behalf, depending upon what it hears, which is very cool. But otherwise, you can just select fast or slow. It's really simple. And it sounds absolutely marvelous. It's really, really a great little compressor. And this is free. This is totally free, and it sounds awesome. So if you're after something that you can just set really quickly and forget, and it sounds great, get it. I recommend this to anybody, whether there's a veteran mix engineer, or whether you're intermediate, or even if you're just starting out. You know, doesn't matter. Warren Hewitt recommends the MJUC. Dave Pensado has just recently started talking about it as a compressor to get your teeth into, to check out. I've been seeing this being talked about by some very, very, very well established and serious mix engineers, who are all talking very, very making some very, very happy noises about Klanghelm compressors in particular. But this one is great because it's totally free and it's well worth getting. Well worth getting your hands on. Dead easy to operate. Now, the big brother. This is not free. Excuse me. But what you do get is you get 3 compressors for the price of 1, and the price is very, very cheap. It's only 24 euros or 25 pounds, or I think about $28, I think it is right now. But you get 3 compressors for the price of 1. And they all have different options for timing, so fast to slow. You can have it in limiter mode or compression mode, but they largely each feature kind of a compression knob and a makeup knob. You get 3 different compressors. You get the Mark 1, you get the Mark 2. So the Mark 1, from what I read, is modeled after a 1950s variable mu style compression, style compressor, I should say. And then this one's a little bit more sort of mid 70s maybe. And then he said this one is a much more modern kind of current kind of sound. But they all have different options, starting from, as I say, this very basic set of settings, which you can set really quickly, to this one that gives you a variable ratio, a variable attack and release. But you also get this density button and this I stage, which introduces a second stage of compression, which is very, very cool. I don't know how it does it or what goes on under the hood exactly, but when you do hit this I stage button, it does something very, very wonderful to the sound. And again, just big compressor and makeup knob. And then the Mark 3, where you get density, I stage, and you get this high ratio button. Because there's this one, I think, is a fixed ratio compressor, but you have this punch slider as well, which is very cool. Excuse me. And it really does. It does exactly what it says. It just adds some extra punch, some extra attack somehow. So I'm wondering if this is kind of like the knee on a compressor. Maybe. I don't really know exactly what goes on under the hood with this. But with all 3 models, you also get this little drop-down arrow, which opens up this little tray underneath. So you have a mix knob, which is great for parallel, if you're wanting to do parallel compression. You get a sidechain filter, if you want to filter out the lows and just have the compressor focusing on anything above a certain spot. You can drive or clean. You can have a dark timbre or a hi-fi timbre, which basically the hi-fi is very clean and crisp and clear, whereas this is, I mean, it says dark, and it really is kind of dark. So, you know, kind of if you're after a particular darker tone from your compressor, you can certainly hit this guy. And parallel parallel compression is a cinch with this guy. Sorry, I'm just grabbing my fluids again. So sorry about that. So yeah, you get the high ratio and the I stage and density. It's really, really cool. I do have a video on this, which I intended to be about 10-15 minutes long, and it ended up being nearly 40 minutes, mostly because I got so carried away with playing with this guy that I totally forgot that I was recording. So what you see is literally my first reactions to this guy, having never used it before. So this is a very, very cool option. I'm going to show you one more cool option though for compression. I'm going to remove these guys. I'm going to show you one more, and again, this comes from Klanghill, and this one is free, and this is called the DC1A, and this is version 2. I believe the DCA1 version 3 came out just recently, which I've not got yet, but it looks extremely simple. Like, you've just got an input and an output knob and job done. But you've also got these buttons underneath. So you can do a lot of stuff with this. With this dual mono button here, you can do some mid-side compression. So you can literally compress the sides with the dual mono button and leave the center alone. and you've got negative, so you can do negative compression, kind of over compression sort of thing going on. You got this deep button. Now what this deep button is kind of like a fixed high pass filter. So you can roll out the lows and concentrate on upper parts of the frequency spectrum that you want to deal with. And then you got this relaxed mode, which I'm not entirely sure what it does, but it's very cool when you do use it. I like to use this if I'm if I've got this on a parallel bus, because I can just go boink, I can just absolutely slam it, and then I will level match the output, and I might even hit this negative button as well. Depends how really I want to slam it. And this will cook, I tell you. It really does it makes a wonderful sound, and it compresses in a wonderful way. I'm not sure what this is modeled after, or whether it's modeled after anything at all. I'm not entirely sure. So I can't really, if that's a question you've got in the chat, I don't really know. But it is extremely cool, and you can just set this guy and forget it. You can use it very, very lightly or very, very aggressively. And for a free compressor, it does such a lot under the hood, and is another really tasty option in your toolkit. So I would say go check this one out and go to the Klanghelm website, klanghelm.com, and go get this. Go get version 3. Well worth having. Doesn't cost you a penny, and this is very cool. Very well worth it. So the two free ones, the MJUC Junior and this guy, if you're just getting into compression and you've got your toes wet with the stock compressor and you wanted to branch out and explore some different sounds, yes, you've got the tube and the FET compressors that are in the fat channel. Add these two guys to your toolkit and you'll get some different tones, and you'll find that there are different instruments and different voices that these sound really great on. So I highly recommend these guys. I'm trying to remember who it was that reminded me of the Klanghelm. And you know, I do use the MJUC. I use it really when there's only a calling for it. You know, kind of like if there's a particular piece of audio where I go, oh, the MJUC would be great on this, then I'll use it. But it's not something I just grab as a go-to compressor, particularly. But it is a great tool to have when you want it, when you need it. So definitely, I would say go and check those guys out. And my voice is starting to go, so I'm going to wrap the show up in just a minute. Mike says, Waves has a DBX 160 you should go check out. 14-day free trial. Yeah, the Waves DBX 160 is very, very cool. You can also get the DBX 160 or DBX 160 style compressor for your PreSonus Fat channel as well. I don't think they are too terribly expensive. I'm not 100% sure how much the individual units are, but that's another option worth exploring. If you're into that kind, if you're into the DBX 160, you can get it for the Fat channel as well. They call it the Comp 160. And it looks very cool. It looks very similar to the actual DBX 160 GUI. Hang on just a sec, and I'll show you. There you go. Looks pretty good. Again, very simple to use. Compression knob, output gain, and a threshold selector. And that's all there is to it, really. You do get a little filter thing as well. And it does have a key listen for your filter, but it doesn't have a side chain, so you can't side chain this guy, unfortunately. But you can, you can certainly do plenty of other things with it. And this, for me, the Comp 160, the DBX 160 is very, very cool for drums in certain circumstances, and bass amps as well. Used it there. So, yep, that's well worth having. Bobby Booth says, have you used the SDR yet? I have it. I do have it. You may well have spotted it, actually. Here it is. This is what Bobby's talking about. And it's not necessarily a compressor. It's more like a tube amp saturator, harmonic exciter type thing. It gives you 3 stages of distortion, big drive knob and output bouncing. You can have even or odd harmonics. You can have it warm or very crispy and sizzly. You can change the frequency response from low to high, filtering. But there is a compressor kind of thing going on here. There's a dynamics knob here from fast to slow, so you can have it act fast or slow, and any kind of options between. I'm not really sure what the medium or high or crosstalk does. And then there's this automatic gain compensation button here as well. But yeah, Klanghelm SDRR is what it is. Very cool piece of gear. I believe it has. Does it have some presets? Yes, it does have some presets. For drums, for bass, guitar, cure for amp sims. That's hilarious. We've just been talking about amp sims, and apparently this is the key. This is the cure for it. Keyboards, vocals, parallel dirt vocal, master, 50s master, 60s master, tube compressor, worn out tape. So there's plenty of options for you, and you can create your own, which is all very cool. So there you go. My voice is starting to give way, as you can probably hear. So I think I'm probably going to call it a night there. We are just coming up on midnight. I had thought, because, you know, my show now starts an hour earlier for me, that I might actually run over a little bit. But to be honest, I'm not feeling particularly great. And as you can hear, my voice is barely holding up. And I have a very busy day ahead of myself tomorrow. I've got to be at my kid's school in the morning. And then I'm back here, and I am working on a few things that I can't really talk about in any detail as yet, but you'll find out what these new things are that I'm working on in the course of the next 2 or 3 months. So yeah, I'm working on a few things that are going to be very, very cool when they're done. And I'm also started writing songs for my next EP, which I'm hoping to release in July of this year. So that's going to be very exciting. So I'm kind of needing my voice, really. So thanks so much, folks, for coming. I'm not really sure what peak viewership was or is. How many people are watching right now? I don't really know. I ought to go and check that. We've got 25 watching just now, which is very cool. I really should keep an eye on those kind of things, so that I can see how many people are watching. Luciano Silva is here, and he says, waiting for episode 5 of the mixing series. Yes, that'll be coming this week. Sick or not, my mixing series videos will be going up every Thursday, unless something completely unexpected happens that robs me of my Thursday. But yeah, you'll be getting the show, you'll be getting the mixing series video episode 5 on Thursday, and we will be diving in further into mixing Paper Deity. Where we're at the moment, we've been working our way through the buses, so we've done the keys, so we'll be looking at horn section and the tenor sax solo. and maybe we'll get on to the vocals. Just shaping over. I mean, we're kind of just shaping overall things at the moment. I know that there are some individual channel things that we need to go fix, which we will be doing maybe in episode 6. We'll start getting into individual channels and going across and just basically doing some surgical stuff, because we're only doing kind of overall tone shaping with the buses right now. And then as we get down, we will get into a bit more detailed EQ and compression on individual channels if they need it. Might be in some cases they just don't need it, in which case we won't. Those channels would just stay as they are. All right, so I'm going to say a very big thank you to everybody for coming. And I will see you all on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified over on Jonny Gibe's channel, the HST Livestreams channel. Don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but Jonny and I will have a chat and we'll come up with some very cool subject matter for you to discuss on Wednesday. And then, of course, Thursday, the next video for the mixing series will come out. If you have not got the stems for Paper Deity, go get them. Just go to one of the previous videos, go to the description box. There's a link there. You can download them there and get mixing along with me. And we will start talking as we go towards the end of this series. We'll start talking about a place where we can all put our mixes for Paper Deity. I'd really like to hear kind of your mixes and your take on this song and how you approach it. It'd be really quite interesting. And I think it'd be pretty cool for everybody to share their work. So we'll need to create some kind of space for that. I think Jonny had some idea of doing something like that over on the HST website, but we'll see about that as we go further down the line with this series. And then, of course, we'll be back here next week for next week's show. So until then, folks. Oh, and one other thing to say. If you have an idea for something that we can talk about, a talking point, or something you want me to demonstrate in Studio One for the Sunday Night Live shows, please do drop me an email at johnny@johnnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I'd really appreciate that, because this show really is here for you guys. It's not really about me showing off or showing what I know. This is more about you and what you want to know and what you want to learn. And so yeah, drop me an email. Just put Sunday Night Live as the subject, and then I can I'll know that you're talking about the Sunday Night Live show, and I can collate all of these, and I can start compiling a list of talking points and demonstrations that we can do. Okay, so until next time, which will be Wednesday, I'll see you then, folks. Good night. I'll play our Bach choir to finish off. Oh, just to say, Dooley, still, if you're still here, I forgot to say hello to you. I'm really sorry, mate. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now.